Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today on Power Apps in NITRO Studio, Perspectives. We're glad you can join. Thank you for taking the time to do this. My name is Scott Restivo, and I'm joined by James, part of Crow Canyon Software also. He will be answering questions during the webinar. There's a question box, as you probably well know, in the GoToWebinar screen, and you can put questions in there, and we'll try to get to them as the webinar progresses, but if not, we'll answer afterwards. Some of the questions that come up in this webinar may be more involved, let's say, than simply like, how do you do this, how do you do that? Because we're covering a wide range of topics about Power Apps and about NITRO Studio, and I think it's going to generate a lot of interest and some questions. So we'll be glad to talk to you individually or arrange calls or email conversations or demos, whatever it takes, whatever you're interested in having happen there. So I think, let's see. The other thing I want to mention is that there'll be a recording. This will be available as a recording at the end of this webinar. Okay, so let's get going. People are still joining, but we'll get going and they can jump right in. There's a lot of material to cover. So again, welcome to our webinar on perspectives on Power Apps in NITRO Studio. And we're going to cover a lot of material today, so let's jump right into it. Okay, good. I am Scott, as I mentioned, I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. Crow Canyon Software has been around, we're 24 years. We're entering our 24th year just as January 1st. This is our 24th year starting right now. We started in 1999. We are a Microsoft preferred partner, a California certified small business because our headquarters is in California. We also have offices in Rhode Island, in South Carolina, and in India. We have a team in India, helps us support our APAC region. We have customers throughout the world. And of course, a lot in US and Canada, but also over Australia, UK, Europe, South Africa, Asian countries. We're widespread and have grown quite a bit over the last 24 years. We're also involved in US government as well as state governments like California, and we have a GSA contract number. So if you need any more information on any of that, you can contact us, and we'll be glad to give you details on these programs we're part of. So what is Crow Canyon Software? Crow Canyon Software, we've been helping businesses succeed with Office 365 Teams and SharePoint. We started out with the Microsoft collaboration platforms way back in 1999, in the early 2000s, working in the Exchange public folders, building what we called Outlook Help Desk. That became very popular, but as SharePoint and Office 365 came out, we moved into development into those worlds, and now we're heavily invested in the SharePoint, Teams, Office 365, and that includes SharePoint both on-premises, 2013, 2016, 2019, and the new version coming out, they call SE for subscription edition on-premises, but also very heavily in Office 365 and all its ramifications and tools and capabilities, including a lot going on with Teams. As you can see here, we build business applications that people use out of the box, ready to go. We have our NITRO Studio Forms and Workflow tool, which we'll talk about today, and we are also developing chat bots and apps for Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of interest, a lot of development, and we're sticking our toe in this whole metaverse idea and where Microsoft's going with Microsoft Mesh and those kind of things. So we're looking forward to continuing helping organizations throughout the world move ahead with business process automation on the Microsoft collaboration platforms. And now we're going to talk about us in relation to, say, the Power Platform. Now, you are probably quite familiar with the Power Platform. It consists of Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, virtual agents, portals, and Power Automate RPA. You hear a lot about it from the MVPs, and there's a lot of material about it, so I'm sure you're quite familiar with it, and I won't go too much into detail describing each thing, but I think NITRO Studio may be something that you may or may not be as familiar with. We're obviously a smaller company, than Microsoft. I think they made more revenue in the last 5 minutes than most organizations make in well, who knows? I haven't done the calculation. But anyways, what NITRO Studio does, what Crow Canyon does is we produce this NITRO Studio, and it's an application creation platform for SharePoint, Office 365, and Teams. And as I mentioned, it works on premises and the Office 365 world. We provide in the NITRO Studio a comprehensive set of tools for business process automation, creating applications and apps that run in those environments, very creative and interesting ways of doing it. It's an easy to use interface with Forms Designer, Workflow Designer, Visual Workflow Designer, and many, many other tools, as you'll see when we go through this webinar. It's fully developed and supported by us here at Crow Canyon Software. We're highly committed to successful implementations and engagement with our customers, and it's affordable with no hidden fees. And this is where the questions about what Power Apps cost comes into Power Apps and Power Platform cost comes into play with that. So going a little forward here, it's used by, like I say, thousands of organizations around the world to implement business process automation solutions. And also a big work we're doing a lot lately is replacing outdated legacy programs such as InfoPath, as well as Access Form, Lotus Notes, SharePoint workflows, etc. But we have a whole web section of our website on InfoPath replacement. We have a number of projects going on. People are finally getting off of InfoPath. Mainstream support ended last July, and now people are coming to us and saying, okay, I need to really take this seriously. We need to move these InfoPath forms to a new solution, and they're looking at NITRO Studio as the way to go forward with that. So today we're going to cover 5 factors when implementing business process automation on Office 365 Teams and SharePoint. This comes from many, many years of experience, and tens of thousands of organizations, customers, maybe some of you even, that we've talked to over the years. Go back 24 years. People have been with the company 10 and 15 years or longer, and we have a long experience and footprint in this space to talk about these 5 factors and how we want to help you and give you some insights into what knowledge we've gained, experience we've had, and hopefully it will be of value. This webinar will be of value when you're considering implementing business process automation solutions on these Microsoft platforms. So we're going to look at the pricing of Power Platform and how sometimes it's confusing or indeterminate. We're going to look at the necessity of incorporating application lifecycle management in any application development. We're going to look at how to avoid app sprawl, as we call it, where these tools go out there and then people are able to just create apps all over the place and becomes an IT nightmare. We're going to look at the availability of support and training resources, which are really critical to success in anybody who's taken up, say, NITRO Studio or Power Apps or any of these platforms out there, and then how NITRO Studio provides a comprehensive integrated set of tools. So let's jump right into it. Number 1, the pricing of Power Platform. Oh boy, that's a big topic, isn't it? It's like, whoa. They just came out with a new, Microsoft came out with a new guide on December last month that I'll show you. Let me see, I have it right here on the other screen. So there's this guide right here that a lot of this information comes from, and we updated it. We did a webinar a couple of years ago on pricing, January of 2020. They came out with a guide, but here's their latest here. And there's a lot of, it's a 32-page thing full of a lot of blah, 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 blah. So I try and summarize some of it here. So we're going to look at the seated version, what comes with Office 365. If you have an Office 365 subscription, both of them include some elements of the Power Platform. Now, these are limited versions. They're not the full thing. And Microsoft even states explicitly that if you want to get the full power of Power Apps, or the full capabilities of Power Apps and Power Automate, then you need to go with the standalone versions. And obviously, those have a cost to them, which we'll look at in a moment. And that's what the standalone plans are about. There's per app and per user subscriptions. And then you got to look at how the cost of Power, and this is something we hear a lot from people. They come to us and say, well, I have a budget and I got to know what the budget is. And with Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, et cetera, they don't always know what the costs are going to be. It's hard to estimate how many flows, how many people are going to use it, how the app's going to grow. There's uncertain escalating costs that people run into and increase as usage grows. And with NITRO Studio, we've made a conscious decision to limit that uncertainty by providing, if we provide you a tenant-wide license or farm-wide license, we allow unlimited forms and workflows, and you know what your budget's going to be for that. It's what the subscription price is. The subscription price aren't escalating costs or hidden fees. And then there's Power Apps, Power Automate, and all the other ones have their own pricing structure. So you have to kind of cobble together, like, well, do I need this of that and that of this, a subscription to this, and how does it all work together? And the pricing becomes very indeterminate. So we'll go through that briefly here. And there's a lot to this subject, and there's a lot of detail. I only can cover so much in a webinar, and as well as what else I want to cover here. But here's what Microsoft says explicitly in their December. This is last month. And let's look at this. Customers that need general purpose and full capabilities of the platform, the Power Platform, should license Power Apps on a standalone basis. And the same thing with Power Automate. Consider purchasing standalone Power Automate licenses. In other words, the seeded version is not enough. Here's what the seeded version, seeded being the term they use for what is included in your Office 365 licenses. Now, there's some subscriptions of Office 365 that don't have Power Platform access, but most do. Most of the E3s and E's and G's, the government do have that. The government versions of Office 365. But here's what's going on. The list over here on the right column gives you some indication of what's going on here. So you can run Canvas apps, but not model-driven apps. You get standard connectors, but not premium connectors. You have some ability to use what they call the Dataverse. That used to be what they used to call that the Common Data Service, the CDS. Now it says it right here, formerly Common Data Service. It's now called the Dataverse. I think soon everything's going to have the appendix verse. How about Crow Canyon verse, or it's just one of those terms that's being used all over the place now. Metaverse, Dataverse, et cetera. Anyway, it's just so they call it the Dataverse now. Okay, whatever. Common Data Service, Dataverse, same thing. And you get some rights to Power Automate, but not very much. So this is what's called the seeded version of Office 365. But there's things that are not included. There's the premium connectors. There's on-premises connectivity. It doesn't include Power Apps portal licenses at all. You only get Canvas apps, not model-driven, and there's daily request limits when you use Power Apps in Office 365. And the same kind of idea with Power Automate and the other tools. And then, according to Microsoft, if you want to get the true capabilities of Power Apps and Power Automate for that matter, you need to go with a plan, a standalone plan to make that happen. So let's look at this a little more detail. Canvas apps versus model-driven. A little technical here, but the idea is that Canvas apps come with it, model-driven don't. We can do. I don't want to go too much into detail on this, but at the high level, what it means is, well, it's kind of explained at the bottom. Canvas apps, model-driven allows you to data model, relationships, business process, automatic generated, whatever that is. But what it is you don't get the model-driven aspect when you're in the seeded version. You also don't, more important than that, I think, is that you don't get the premium connectors. Premium connectors are really important because one of the critical ones that they moved off, I think about a year and a half ago, was they moved SQL connector, Microsoft SQL connector, out of the seeded version, so you have to buy a standalone plan to get that connector. Well, in all honesty, most of our, a lot of our connectivity is to SQL Server. That's included. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. We included in NITRO Studio, we have a SQL connector. I mean, but they call it a premium connector, and you have to go beyond the seeded version to get it. That seems to me a major limitation. Here's the other premium connectors. These were moved from standard to premium, and you can see right here, SQL Server, Azure SQL, Azure SQL, and all these other ones moved over to become premium. So now you have to get the standalone plan in order to use those connectors with Power Apps. And the other thing is the on-premises. If you are using SharePoint on-premises, the 2013, 2016, 2019, you cannot use the Power Platform without getting a Power App standalone plan and setting up an on-premises data gateway, both of which, of course, the standalone plan costs some money, and the on-premises gateway is, another IT thing to manage, right? Now, NITRO Studio works entirely in the SharePoint on-premises world. You can get it in your farm, and use it throughout the farm. It's also, we call it a NITRO Secure in the sense that it's all the data is contained, all the activity and functions are contained within your farm, if that's what you need in some highly secure environments or regulatory or compliance needs to keep it contained inside your farm. We have that capability there. So we have it for the SharePoint on-premises. We also have NITRO Studio for the Office 365 and Teams. So cover both worlds. We have customers in both. And still some people are still using SharePoint on premises quite a bit, for a lot of reasons, a lot of good reasons. So we're staying very active in that world also, as well as developing an Office 365 team. Now I want to throw something in. It's a little bit of a, I hope it's not too off topic, but I do want to mention that we also work in the government community cloud, the GCC cloud, and we also came out recently with a GCC High. So if you're in the high-level government security world, and you need a program to work in the GCC High, a solution that works in the GCC High, we have that available with NITRO Studio. So that's what we do here. We make NITRO Studio available in all these different environments and don't restrict it, unless, we're not in the DoD, the highest level, but we're in the commercial cloud, the GCC, the government cloud, we're in the GCC High, and then SharePoint on premises. So moving right along, let's take a closer look at the standalone plans of Power Apps. They have this per user, per app, or just per user. The per user per app allows users to run one custom app or one custom portal. Now, this used to be 2 custom apps prior to the December 21 release of the license update, let's call it. So now they allow you to use one custom app or one custom portal if you're per user per app, or if you're per user, then you get unlimited applications inside that capabilities of Power Apps. And the pricing there is $5 per user per month versus $5 per user per app per month versus $20 per user per month. The difference being this is like per app. This allows you unlimited apps, one rate. And of course, that's per month per user. So if it depends on the number of users you have, it can go up quite a bit. And we'll look at that in a moment. There's also a pay-as-you-go plan, which requires an Azure subscription to use. Okay, so we looked at this, started to do some calculations here. If you're at the per user plan and you want to use, unlimited apps, you have 100 users, you got 2,000 a month, 24,000 a year. If you have 500 users, you're at 120,000, 1,000 users at 240. So you see the prices go up. And here's what happens. We've seen things like this happen in our experience, is where somebody somebody puts together an app, a Power App, people start using it. There's maybe only 1 or 2, admins using it at first, and other people are sending in emails or, somehow communicating, but mostly email, that they need some process done, some requests resolved or fulfilled. But then people start using the Power App forms for that, and they want to be available on the mobile device or available on the computer. So all of a sudden the usage grows. It's no longer 1 or 2 people. It all of a sudden becomes the whole department, which might be 50 people or 100 people. So the costs all of a sudden have gone from, maybe $40 a month or whatever to, what's 20 times $1,000 a month or something like that. So you really jumped, you jumped out of what seems like a low cost, environment to, if you want to grow the application, now you are looking at much, much higher costs all of a sudden. And I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this or seen it, and I'd be glad to talk about it, but we see it and hear it fairly often that, well, I don't know what I'm paying. This is just Power Apps too. There's Power Automate costs, Power BI costs, virtual agent costs, portal costs, et cetera, et cetera. So, but even with the standalone plans in Power Apps, other factors to consider, printing, offline capabilities. There's a limit to the number of API calls. You need multiple subscriptions like Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, if you want to use the full capabilities of Power Platform. And there's uncertainties of cost as usage changes, as I just mentioned, that an app may start just used by 1 or 2 people, but then if they want to start expanding beyond that, and as it grows in popularity, then it comes, the costs escalate quite quickly, and development environments can be difficult to use. And people complain a lot about, to us anyway, I don't know if other people hear it, that Power Apps is not that friendly. It's difficult to use. It's got a lot of, it's not that, it's more like kind of coding development kind of style interfaces and things like that. I don't know. It's just, we get a lot of complaints about Power Apps usability. And, it's like, oh, okay, well, we have NITRO Studio, and that's easy to use. All right, we did this infographic quite some time ago, maybe 2 years ago, about when people are talking about moving from InfoPath to Power Apps. And Joel Olson, who is a friend of the company, We work with him. He's in Southern California. He's a well-known MVP. Anyways, put this together with him, and we identified these limitations that people who are using InfoPath would encounter if they went to Power Apps. It's specifically about InfoPath, but what we've done with NITRO Studio, since we've had so many InfoPath replacement projects going on, we took all the input and feedback we were getting over the years. We were doing this like 3-4 years now, InfoPath replacement, and probably longer. I don't know, maybe 5 years. And we're getting a lot of feedback. Oh, NITRO Studio should have this. NITRO Studio should have that. NITRO Studio have this. And when we examine this, because this, we're here to help our customers. We're here to make them successful. And so we built into NITRO Studio things that were missing inside of Power Apps, and so that people could easily transition from InfoPath over to the Office 365 or SharePoint world using our NITRO Studio platform. We have printing is very, we have a whole print manager, for example, and other things there that are missing in the Power Apps that we built in, because we, as a response to our customers' needs. I mean, that's what we are. We work interactively with our customers. A lot of NITRO Studio development came from this iterative cooperation of the community of users. I mean, Crocanian's been around 24 years. We have some people go back decades with us. And this is a community of people who work together to, kind of deal with the Microsoft, you might say the Microsoft beast in some ways. Microsoft's a great company. It's a lot of innovation, and we go there and talk to them, and it's a good relation. But there are things where they are huge, and they don't always I'll say mesh well with the needs of people on the ground. Whereas Crocanian's been working in the trenches, you could say. We came from IT background. We've done work. We've designed networks. We've designed portals, internet. All from all the beginning. We've been in it a long time at the trenches, and we know. We work at that level, working with customers. What do you need? We're your partner in helping you achieve business process automation success on the Office 365, SharePoint, and now also Teams platforms. So it's a great adventure to be on. It's a good industry to be part of, and thankful for Microsoft for everything it provides, but it can't do everything for everybody. Let's be honest, and meet everybody's needs. That's why there's a great opportunity for companies like ours to fill that gap, and hopefully we're doing that successfully. Here's another thing about limitations of Power Apps. I won't go into all that. If you want to go talk more about it, I think I beat up on Power Apps enough right now, hopefully. But just I just want to raise some cautions. Is you just don't want to rush in there and use it because it's so without giving the consideration of the different factors we're talking about right here. So the first one we just considered is pricing and overall capabilities of Power Apps. And now we're going to talk about something else that's a little more at a, I don't call it philosophical, but sort of philosophical level, I guess you'd say. The idea is this, and we run into this a lot. When you give these tools out, or they start being, it's kind of new and exciting. It's like a new toy or something. And they start building, these applications. This is where citizen developer, hey, we're all for citizen developer, but there's a certain caution that has to be implemented here that, you can't just go out and build an application and have it, build it without following a certain process and have it be successful. It's just how it is. You can't, you cobble together something that's good for you, maybe a few people in your department, what we would call quick and dirty applications, low, like very simple, no complexity, very few users. Yeah, that can work. But if you're going to use anything that's beyond that level, you need to implement application lifecycle management, application development processes and scenarios. It's just, otherwise it's going to fail. I mean, we see it all the time. And some people come to us to rescue them from that kind of disasters that were when a developer came in, developed something. I was thinking one story with California government. He developed a whole bunch of access forms. No one else knew what he did or how he did it. He was there, and then he retired. And when he retired, it's like, what do we do now? So they called us up. We went up to Sacramento and, worked with them to transition off of the access forms and develop an environment where it wasn't dependent on one person or one person's pretty idiosyncratic way of doing things. This is a well-documented code that anyone could take over and move forward from there. And that's, let's call it the mature way to do things, right? And the efficient and effective way. So part of any application development requires requirements necessitates requirement gathering, engaging the stakeholders generating the business case, why the company should spend effort and cost and resources on developing this, getting the users involved. There's testing, QA, UAT, user acceptance testing. You want to fix a number of things before you bring it into production. There could be security and regulatory issues you have to encounter, maybe some private information that gets out, or security issues with IT. These are all things you have to consider when developing an application that's going to be truly used in a production environment. What is the impact on IT resources? What's going to cost with a new subscription if it's cloud? What's it going to be if it's on a server that you own? How much resources is going to take up? How many? Just what the imports, what devices are supported, how does it fit into the environment? All these kind of issues. And then the big factor that happens a lot is ongoing support and upgrades. Once the application is put together, there's more to it than just okay, release it and done and forget, set and forget kind of thing. It's not that way at all, as anybody in IT could attest. So this is a scenario we put together, and I'll just go through it briefly and make you read all this. I'll describe. The scenario is that a clever, motivated user puts together an app. And it's using these low-code, no-code tools. And it's kind of cool, it's kind of creative, and it's fun in some ways. But then it starts small, and then it grows and grows and grows and becomes more and more used and important in the business. But it hasn't gone through the necessary, constraints and that are important to, in the development process, that are important to produce a really good application. People come back to him or her and say, we want to add new features. We want to support more devices. We want it to perform better. And the creator's all of a sudden like, well, I've got other work to do. I've got other responsibilities. And soon it goes beyond his or her expertise and isn't able to do it. And all of a sudden he's ringing up IT or some other people, or IT's getting involved, or people using it say, and all of a sudden IT's like, what just happened here? We call it going feral. The app goes feral, and IT scrambles to support it or needs to call in expensive consultants to manage the application from that point forward. By the way, we're not expensive consultants. We're application developers. But I mean, we've seen a lot of consultants get called in to come in and, kind of like correct the situation, you might say, right? So you got to be careful about that. I'm just saying. So here's just, I want to run through this whole list and bore you to death, but there's a number of tasks when developing an application have to go through. I mean, webinar is not an application lifecycle management or development. A number of us at Crocan can give, spiels on that, and maybe we should do a whole webinar just on that. But my point in this webinar is that there's a number of tasks that have to be considered to develop a serious application that's going to be used in production. Designing the right architecture, what tools are going to be used, what about version control, testing QA, managing the release, and how do users need training, how are you going to introduce them, do you have to write up documentation, that kind of thing. And then once it's out there, how do you do to maintain it? End user support, the training, what about revisions, new features? What if there's some change in the platform? Microsoft adds a new feature to this or that, this kind of thing. Security, performance, and inevitably every application needs ongoing support as well, upgrades and enhancements. I think you're going to find that anybody who's been in this business a while would hopefully agree what I'm saying here. That this is the problem that occurs, is that it's great. It's in development. No slide on it. It's great. We love people putting together applications but a lot of times it's best used as maybe to put together a prototype and then go to IT or go to and say, okay, now that we kind of see that this could be done better in this way, let's go through the proper processes of releasing it into production. And maybe slower. I know a lot of people get frustrated with IT because IT's resources are limited, but that is the case, that it's better to do it right in the first place than to kind of correct a mess later. And we're here as Crocan Software with our NITRO Studio, with our pre-built applications to help accelerate that process. We're here to work close with you on doing that. We have applications that are ready to go, or we have our help desk, our work order, our purchasing, our asset management, our equipment tracking, and other applications that are ready to go and fully supported by Crocan. And so if you need that kind of solution, it's a lot easier just to go with a vendor like us, put it in place, and we are now on the block to fix it, keep it going and make sure it all works. Takes the headache totally out of IT. Or if you want to get NITRO Studio in place, and then we'll work with you to help develop applications according to the right procedures and and implement the best practices, etc. So the other thing that comes along with this, and number three factor, is this whole idea of avoiding app sprawl. We see this a lot. A lot of people come, I mean, this is years of experience. I remember Lotus Notes way back when, it was popular. I think it was a year or two ago, one customer came to us and said, I've got 1,000 Lotus Notes applications out there that people just put together. The same idea with 1,000 SharePoint sites or something like that. There was nothing controlling it at all. And so now he had to move off of Lotus Notes to, going towards Office 365. And like, well, what do I do? So we had to catalog all those applications, find out which ones are being used, and, kind of do a whole inventory of it. And it became sort of I don't say a nightmare, but a lot of work. He finally reduced it. I think he had about 80 useful applications out of the 1,000, and had to convert those over to and go through the process of updating and revising. Anyway, the point is, app sprawl, it produces this idea of shadow IT. There's this whole IT and whole support system going on out there that IT doesn't control, and it uses up the businesses, organizations' resources ineffectively and inefficiently, and doesn't get, and it doesn't, things get out of control quickly, in terms of maybe security issues or regulatory issues with these applications that are out there feral or running wild. And somebody once said, kind of one of these people, making these quips, he said, no, low code, no code is just a way to do bad designs faster, and I can see his point. If you're doing a bad design, if you don't know how to design something, just because you can do it faster or quicker with these tools doesn't mean you come out with a better design. I always use this analogy. If I go down the store and buy a set of knives and a nice set of pots and pans, bring it home to my kitchen, it doesn't make me a chef. It doesn't make me able to produce high quality food and meals, just because I got a fancy set of tools. Maybe I get a new stove or something like that. That's not what it takes, right? We all know that. Same we could use for analogies and many things. Just getting the tools, it requires a certain kind of experience, expertise, and that's what the value is for us as a company. And maybe some of you are consultants or IT people. That's our value we bring to the organization. It's that, and we should be proud of that, and the organization respectful of this expertise that is there to help this organization run more effectively and efficiently and do things right, so they don't end up with this app sprawl all over the place. And last thing I have there is like popping up like mushrooms. It's easy to create them, and it's sort of fun. I mean, fool around, create an app, why not? And sometimes people come up with really good ideas, and there are good things that come out of maybe somebody in a HR department put something together, or somebody in the accounting department put something together. I don't know. And it's like, that's interesting, that's good. You want to be open to those ideas. You want to hear them, but not have it be released into the public production, the organization production environment without going through a certain vetting process, of course. And of course, results in chaos. Now, maybe somebody would raise your hand and say, yep, that's my story. You got it right. So the thing is, IT governance is important to implement. You control who has rights to the apps, define the processes for developing and deploying, setting permissions and access rights, allocating resources efficiently, coordinating efforts of different departments. All these things are part of IT governance. And NITRO Studio helps with that, because you can activate NITRO Studio as an IT manager, tenant administrator, or farm administrator only in the sites that you allow it to be activated. And you can control it quite well that way through permissions and other things, and permissions and rights, and who has access to this and access to that, AD groups and all that. So you can impose a lot of government capabilities on through the use of NITRO Studio. And I hope this is resonating, some of this information, and being of value to people at this webinar. Anybody who wants to talk to us directly about it can. And I love to have these conversations. It's what we do. We've been doing it for years. We do it day and night. We have, it's our company, what we do. And we're here to help move it along. Business process automation, better workflows, more efficient operations, streamlining your operations. And technology is moving very fast. And we are keeping up with it as best, I mean, I can't imagine an organization who doesn't do this day and night keeping up, because there's so much new information coming out all the time. What's the latest thing? Blockchains, metaverse, mesh, graph, all these things. So, and we do it all day and we have trouble keeping up, let alone people who have other jobs, right? So anyways, one other fourth factor here that's very important is support and training resources. Now, a little slight on Microsoft, because we've worked with them many years, and great company, all that. No, but the point here is that trying to get support for them can be, let's say, a little difficult sometimes. I mean, they have resources, they have forums, there's chat groups, there's, but it isn't anywhere near, let's just say, frankly, anywhere near the kind of support Crow Canyon can provide. We are a small company and we are dependent on that kind of relationship with our customers of being successful, that they are successful, that they use word of mouth or recommend us or get a high, we get high marks and reviews and that kind of thing, so that we can, continue our operations. We don't have to anywhere, I mean, this is so obvious, I don't even have to say it, but we don't have anywhere near the reputation of Microsoft, of course. And so we need to work harder. It's like I don't know if you remember, Rent-A-Car Avis was behind Hertz at one time, and they always had these buttons that said, "We try harder, we try harder." There was a button on Avis. I don't know if anybody remembers that motto of Avis, but when they were number 2, their whole thing was, "We try harder." Well, we take some of that philosophy here and say, we have to be better and the best we can with our customers, with our clients, with our development of our NITRO Studio, to make sure that our reputation continues, which, and it's done quite well in the last 24 years. We wouldn't be around that long, would we, if we hadn't? So let's look at support and training resources and what we have here. So there's 2 kinds of support that I see: vendor support, which is about Microsoft supporting the Power Platform, or about Crow Canyon supporting NITRO Studio. Well, the Crow Canyon supporting NITRO Studio is very direct. A lot of the people, we met people at the shows, or we talked to them. We talk to clients all day long, pretty much, and we have support resources available. So we're really invested in this kind of more intimate, engaged relationship with our customers. And we do have a community out there, works to help each other out on that. And I see that's vendor support. Vendor's application support, and when you support of our application, of course, we support our applications. But once you build something with Power Platform, you're kind of on your own. I mean, Microsoft's not going to come in and support the thing you built, whereas we will. And another thing with application support is to consider, if you're using like one of those low-code, no-code tools that you're on your own once you build the application, who's going to support it after it's built? The citizen developer moves on to other tasks, leaves the organization. What then? This is where Crow Canyon comes in and our NITRO Studio and provides that level of support and training that's going to make it so that it's successful in your organization, whatever application you build, the forms and workflow solution or whatever. And we have, we're known, we have a good reputation for providing a high level of support and training to our customers. We want to, as I keep emphasizing, we're committed to your success. So we have all these different support options here that we can, you can utilize in order to get the best value out of working with us. I just want to point that out, that that's a very important part of business process automation. Isn't just on Office 365 or SharePoint. Isn't just create it, create the application, gets going. There's ongoing support that is really not just support, but also enhancing, maintaining, upgrading the application through its whole life cycle, to its beginning to end, and not just have it put into place and then left there to kind of linger, I guess is a word you could use, and not really get up. So many times people come to us and say, this person developed this app, whether it's in Power Apps or InfoPath or Lotus Notes or whatever, and the person leaves or is on to other tasks, and then they're left high and stranded with the application. They want to add this feature in, that feature in. It's kind of interesting how many times I mean, seriously, we run into that quite a bit. It's crazy. And I think people would have figured it out by now to not go that direction. But it does just seem like, and there's Power Apps, it's creative, it's infinite, you can jump right in. It's right there in the seeded version of Office 365. And you don't know what you get yourself involved in once you start building these apps until, almost like it's too late. And that's why, we're being a little bit here of cautions, these 5 factors to consider, and hopefully it will be a little bit like a cautionary note to consider and look at a little deeper than just, all the bright lights and information coming out of Microsoft all the time. This is what we experience being here in the trenches with you guys, working on these applications and trying to make these businesses and your organization successful. Okay, the other thing we're talking about, the 5th factor, is the using a comprehensive integrated set of tools. What this is hitting on, the reason I bring this in, is that Power Apps is this, Power App Platform is this whole spread of basically disparate units of applications. You got Power Apps, you got Power Automate, you got Power BI, you have, oh good, someone just praising our support. That's great in the question box. Thanks, thank you for that, it's appreciated. You have Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, you got Power Virtual Agents, you've got Power Portals, you've got RPA, and how do you put all these together, and what's the subscriptions, and how are you supposed to subscribe? We just did away with all that and said, look, NITRO Studio is all the features you need to build robust applications that drive business process automation. We include forms, workflows, reports, bots. Now this is a big one, bots. Office 365, admittedly, it's not on premises, it's in Office 365. We include chatbots, and those are going in a great direction. I was going to hopefully have some time to show you in the last 15 minutes or so some of that. But here's the other things. We have a forms designer, a WYSIWYG form designer. We have a visual workflow manager where you drag and drop different actions around to create your workflows. We have custom actions that are initiated by a user. We have self-service portals that come with it. They are not an additional cost like the Power Apps portals. We have reports and dashboards. We have omni-channel support, meaning email, text, portals, bots, SharePoint, whatever way works, mobile, not mobile, whatever. Full Teams integration is going on here, and that's an expanding world, the Teams integration. We have the chatbots and AI services. AI services include natural language processing, the Lewis app, the language understanding app from Microsoft, bots, a lot of things we're doing with that, knowledge base, all these AI services. We have a fully fledged print manager, generate invoices, purchase orders from your forms, and send them out to whoever needs to. Email synchronization, email handling, SMS texting, responsive mobile devices, modern UI interfaces, application templates. I mean, we try and provide the fullest set of features we can. Okay, someone's asking about storage of data. I'll get to that question in a minute. So there we go. Application templates. And we have adapted a design, and there's a whole webinar on this, and I'm not gonna go into it this late, but briefly, NITRO Studio was built on the 3 pillars of application design that we came up with, is that you have to have UI and UX that engages and empowers users. That's our forms, our portals, our bots, our the email synchronization, all that's part of the UI and UX. If you don't have a good UI UX, you cannot, your users won't use it, and then the user adoption will go low, and your application is maybe great, but not used. So you need the UI UX to engage and empower. Important thing is empower users also to use it. The other is workflow. The center part is workflow and business processes. I call this the heart of an application, where you streamline automated processes through NITRO workflows, through our custom actions, through our approval processes, through the printing capabilities, and the other is reporting and analytics, which are used to drive continuous cycle of improvement. And this is the idea of that. The whole idea of application design is that this business process automation is presenting a great interface that's usable by the staff and users, end users, staff, whatever, driving business processes through automating as much as reasonably can be automated, and then iteratively looking back at how the application is performing, and say for help desk, how many tickets were unanswered, or the SLA was exceeded, or we got so many of this kind of issue or that kind of issue, and that could apply not just to help desk but other applications, and then using that kind of reporting and analytics to drive continuous improvement by maybe there's a hardware problem that needs to be fixed, a software problem that needs to be fixed, or maybe there's user training that needs to be implemented, or maybe there's some software, maybe there's some there's a 4th one there, but there's something that has to be replaced, and and modified. Oh, some process or procedure has to be improved. That's the other one. So, you identify these things and then fix it, so you become this continuous cycle of improvement going on there. So to summarize, before I jump off into a little bit of NITRO Studio and the bots, we talked about 5 factors here. And one is the pricing of Power Platform, how there's confusion. It can be confusing with hidden costs, escalating fees, hard to determine pricing. I showed you the licensing guide. You can freely download this from the Microsoft site. And it's this 32-page document, which, once you get your PhD, you can figure it out, what you're supposed to pay. If you PhD in Microsoft licensing here. I mean, I'm just look at this. I mean, just look at this stuff. Doesn't it drive you a little bit like, what the heck? It goes on and on. I'm only in Power Automate now. Power Automate. Yeah. All right, I won't go over and over that. You get the idea, I hope. Application lifecycle management, how that's very important for ensuring that applications are properly developed, supported, and maintained. I can't emphasize that enough. You want to avoid application sprawl by applying IT governance and oversight of the application development process out there, so you don't end up with this, whack-a-mole going on over there. Everything's popping up all over the place, and you're like, oh my God, I go this one. It's like whack-a-mole. Certainly fun to play at the arcade, but not when you're in the IT department. Availability of support and training resources. I mean, it's important to look at that. Once the application's in place, well, first of all, when you're developing it with NITRO Studio, how much support do you get for that? And second of all, once the application's in place, how is it going to be supported and how users are going to be trained? And Crow Canyon has that list of resources I mentioned, of support resources. And then the idea of using a comprehensive integrated set of tools that is meant for application development. And, it comes from the place of the many years of experience we have, that this is what we needed in order to build applications. And bottom line is, I always think about it, if Power Platform was sufficient to do what we do, we would use it. Why wouldn't we, to build our applications? We'd be Power Apps consultants or something. But it isn't, frankly. I mean, it is not, good enough for what is needed in a production application environment. And our NITRO Studio certainly is. It comes into place. We built it that way. We have, developers who develop it specifically for that purpose. And we continue with the innovation and the progress of NITRO Studio. And we look forward to any feedback and comments we get from users and people on how to do it better or what features it could have in it. And it's we upgrade or enhance it, improve it quite often to add on new features. In fact, one thing we're doing in next week, January 12th, if you want to go to another webinar run by James, I think I'll be part of it, but James will be running most of it, is on our visual workflow designer tool, which is a new feature. Let me see, I'll get up our website and show you that here, where we crowcanyon.com website here. Okay, I know you're here. Here you are. Usually I have this ready for the webinar, but here we go. Crow Canyon software, we have resources. You can look at our upcoming workshops and webinars, our support resources, our InfoPath replacement page. Hope you'll take the time to either contact us directly or look at that, look at our resources here. But there are these upcoming webinars. One is we're doing right now, right? Of course. But the other is the visual workflow. Let's get visual. I kind of like that title. Let's get visual. So the new NITRO workflow visual designer. And then we're going to have one later in January, on January 20th, 2 weeks from today, on building better bots. And this is kind of exciting, about using teams and bots to accelerate IT support. And then we'll be doing other webinars, of course, in February on knowledge base and things like that. James has some workshops coming up. Not flashing all over the place. Workshops coming up. He does these once or twice a month, and he's going to do one in January on the knowledge base, using the NITRO knowledge base. So as you can see, there's a number of past workshops going on here on all aspects of NITRO Studio. There, we also have other resources here on NITRO Studio. Many resources, support pages, knowledge base, forum. We have a whole site just called crowcanyon.help with FAQs and all that. So, we got it covered as far as that goes. Now, we there's about 10 minutes, and I thought I would go. Let's see if I can address the questions first. Let's see. Okay, so James did answer. Good. Looks like we got the questions answered. Okay, good. Anybody with any questions, though, wants to talk to us directly, we're open to hearing from you guys. You send me an email directly. Do we have that slide up? here we go. Where's that slide? Here we go. Okay. Learn more. Well, not in the last few minutes. I mean, I was going to show you a little bit of NITRO Studio, a little bit of the bots that we're doing, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about and more in the actual presentation of it. But what it would be valuable and is to, if you want to arrange a demo with us to take a look at NITRO, even if you're a consultant and you're not really looking at you might be thinking of what can I use for my client, or you're actual you run an organization in IT, you're part of an IT department, or you're looking for some tool. Any of those scenarios works. That will show you the NITRO Studio directly and talk about it, and also see what your business process automation requirements are and what you need to want done. So we're here. We're, like I say, we're up in the Bay Area of California. That's where I am right now. James is over in Rhode Island, in the Providence, Boston area. And we have an office in South Carolina. I mean, we're here, and we used to go to a lot of these shows and meet people. We are going to go to Seattle in May, but, of course, with COVID, these shows and trade shows have really, not happening as much. All right, so let me jump into this for the last few minutes here and show you NITRO Studio here. Okay, this is a sample site called Access Request System. Access requests are here. This is just a kind of a demo, fun place where we play around, and we have a NITRO form going on right here that has a lot of features that we highlight here. Is what you can do with our forms designer. You can put on all these different colors and buttons and arrange things in many different ways. You can pull information from Active Directory. Again, it's better done in a demo one-on-one, just to show you all the cool features and things we can do. We have associated items, we have signature columns, we have different ways of arranging the form, we have tables we can put in. All this can be done in our forms. And then, of course, the workflows behind this run with our visual workflow designer. And this application running in SharePoint is powered by the NITRO Studio that's let's call it underneath, or the foundation here, this access request system. So if I want to design the form, I just go to the NITRO form designer. If I want to design a workflow, I go to the workflow designer. I want to do a report and create a report, I go there. So there's all these different tools available in NITRO Studio to help you with creating these business process applications. And they people use forms, workflows, custom actions, email sync. Some of them are just, once you set up the sync, it's good to go. The formatting, print manager. So let's look at, for instance, the custom actions. Well, let's look at the forms designer and show you what that looks like. If I'm looking at my access request form, you can see that we have this WYSIWYG form designer going on here. Okay, this is going to be brief, and to really get the full experience of this is to go through a demo with us. But there's so much you can do with this form designer to create these forms and have it really adhere to whatever need is for the UI for your customer, for your users. And we also have it in ability to preview it in the different tablet, mobile, tablet, and desktop. So if you want to see what it's going to look like in mobile, tablet, desktop, you can just do that. And you can also preview it in, the real functionality, what's going on. We also have a number of columns that we created. There's a standard columns, but there's a number of other columns you can add for specific purposes that go on there. And it's a great tool. And I'd love to go into depth with you, but this webinar is not on that. Sometime it would be. And I'll show you the workflow designer. Then we'll go into this more detail on January 12th. So if I were to create a new workflow using the new designer, you'll see that there are all kinds of ways to arrange these. Okay, new designer, share let's just say access request list, and show you the designer here going on. And this interface we have here, where you can take any one of these actions over here, and these are all different actions that are going to happen. You could create an item, update an item, delete an item, manage permissions, send email, on and on and on and on. All these different things, a lot of things interacting with Teams when you're in Office 365, mail to a channel, create a Teams channel, post a card, and you can put that in and start to create this workflow that's visual design, including things like the gateway, where you can have decisions where it branches off from one and then it'll branch over to something else over here. And James will go through that more detailed next week. The other thing, I'm going to leave this without saving it. The other thing I want to point out is our bots. We have a whole bot command situation going on here. Here's our friendly little bot down here. And just to show you that briefly, running in Teams, here's a bot right here. Let's see, what am I in? I'm in here, a bot. A few minutes, I'll get this done by the hour, in 4 minutes, you'll see. So, and then if you want to go more detail, let's talk. So there's a list of commands for the bot. This is running inside of Teams. It could run on a Teams mobile. It could run on desktop. It could run, I'm running it in the web right now. And you can see that this person said was searching for a printer not working. It came back with an article. If the article isn't sufficient to resolve the problem, they can say if it is sufficient, they can say my problem is resolved, and then it will go, or you can submit a ticket if it wasn't, more detail. All this bot activity is recorded in our bot telemetry and our bot dashboard, so you can go improve the bot. It isn't the whole world in itself. Anybody interested in bots, it's best to just get in touch with me or sales and say, hey, I want to find out more about your bots and what they can do. It's a very exciting field. A lot of people are not rushing in and adopting it immediately, because we have people on SharePoint 10, 2010, SharePoint 2013. So, getting the bots is kind of leading edge stuff, but hey, if you're into this is great stuff. We think there's a huge future in it, and we have developed quite a bit of capabilities already to do things here with it. If I want to do a leave request, for instance, leave request, let's see if this works. Leave request, is it's going to come up? It's going to come up with a form. Okay, I got to go back to the beginning here. I kind of tripped over myself a little there. Let's go here, and we're going to say leave request. It's down here in the commands. Anyway, submit a leave request, and it comes up with a form here that you can fill out and say leave request off next week. And got to get this done in 2 minutes because it's going to come on 12. Earn leave, start, let's just say he's taking a day off, a couple of days off next week, 11th and 12th. To put in a description if he wants, say need a break, and we all submits it. The manager over here, James, is the manager. Let's see, go to bot here. It gets a let's see, response was sent to the app. We're in the admin account here, and he's the one creating this leave request. And now it's coming back, and over here, it's telling James, the manager, that there's been a leave request. This is all done in Teams through the bot. The person created the leave request. Now I'm in the manager's browser. I was a different browser here. James's browser, and saying this person, admin account, which I was just in and created the leave request, needs a break, off next week for 12, and I can approve or deny it. If I approve it, I say okay, fine with me. This is all done through Teams. A person could be on Teams and never has to go to the back-end application. And request is approved. It gets all recorded, and then over here on the admin account, he gets back here that James Restivo just approved his request right here, and it's all kept in the back-end system of the request manager. So if you want to see it in the back end, you go here and look at all the requests here, and it's right here, and here it is right here, the actual request in the form, and here it is in the list of requests right here. And I'm kind of rushing through this because we want to get done by the top of the hour. But anybody wants to see this in more detail, we very much enjoy showing it. We can see that this request was just created here, and leave request on just about noon my time here in California, and it's right there. So anyway, that's a very, very brief show of that. I now that it's the top of the hour, I guess I got to jump off and in the webinar, get back to the slideshow. But hopefully this has been useful information for you and give you the 5 factors to consider, just a way of presenting information about Power Apps versus NITRO Studio. And really, we're talking about business process automation on Office 365, Teams, and SharePoint, and working with us, people in the trenches who've been doing it for over 24, well, we're going on 24 years now, and have a lot of experience and can be your partner in this, can help you out. and advisors, whatever, and also just to have a discussion in general. Like, hey, I think you could have, yeah, we're up for feedback. Put it that way. I don't agree with this. I agree with that. It's a subject that has some. It's a subject that people are talking a lot about these days. And should I use Power Apps or not? Is it the right choice? What about these other solutions? Hopefully this has been valuable. Appreciate you attending it. And thank you, James, for helping to answer questions. Any questions we didn't answer, we'll get to after. We'll have a recording available. I hope everyone has a good day the rest of the day. And thank you again for joining our webinar. Take care, and we hope to hear from you and follow this along further. Okay, have a good day. And Happy New Year. Okay, bye-bye.